Hello and welcome to this video presentation on display screen equipment, DSE. My name is Nigel Bull and I work for Mott MacDonald Bentley and I'm a member of the QES department. Now I've been asked to put this presentation together to provide you with the information you need to set up your own workstation. Now normally you would be working in an office where your employer will have provided you with a desk, an appropriate chair and all the hardware you need to carry out your work. Now, if your day is predominantly made up of sitting in front of a display screen equipment, then your employer is legally obligated to carry out a workstation assessment on you to ensure that you have all the right equipment and you have a workstation set up correctly and how to operate at that workstation. However, because of the current situation we're in, many thousands of you are having to find yourself working from home. Now, some of you may have the luxury of a study. You may have converted a bedroom into an office, but not everyone has that luxury. And therefore, many of you might find, even on a daily basis, you're having to set up your workstation at a dining table, a kitchen table. Well, that really doesn't matter, providing you set it up correctly each time. And as far as possible, it mirrors that you have in your office. Now, because you spend so many hours in front of DSE equipment, it can lead to occupational ill health problems. In particular, musculoskeletal disorder. Now, this affects the muscles, the tendons and the nerves. And in the areas of the hands, the wrist, the arms, the neck, the shoulders and the back. Some of you may have heard of the term work-related upper limb disorder. Now this is a term used to describe a number of conditions such as carpal tunnel or tendinitis. And that's normally associated as well with RSI. Again, another term you may have used, repetitive strain injury. Now, some of you also may suffer from visual fatigue, eye strain. So if whilst you're operating, you find that your eyes become blurred, you start to suffer from headaches, dizziness, watery or even dry eyes, and those particular symptoms persist, then speak with your HR, because apart from the fact you may not be taking enough breaks, it may be a case of that you need glasses, particular to operating DSE equipment. And in your policy, I'm sure it facilitates that eye tests can be set up and paid for by your company. But you will need to request that. Now, why can these problems occur? Well, from a poor, ergonomically set up workstation, long periods of work without adequate breaks, sustained overuse from too much repetitive movement, poor posture, excessive workload, or even a cold working environment. So the important point here to take away is make sure you have breaks. Now, the general rule of thumb is you take 10 minutes in every 60 minutes, where you get up from your workstation and you move about. Now, in that break, you might decide to do something that's otherwise work-related, or even go make yourself a drink, glass of water. But don't immediately come back to the desk, put it down and start working again. Go stand outside your front door. Look around, take in the scenery, or go out in the garden and have a little walk around so you can stretch your legs and get the blood circulation flowing again. Because remember, your legs take a toll as well. Let's take a few minutes now to talk about the workstation location and the working environment. Now, more often than not, when people set up their workstations, they do it in and around the area of a window, usually with their backs facing it. Now this does give us the opportunity to take advantage of the natural light coming in. The disadvantage here is, on a bright sunny day, as the sun comes round, it tends to put a glare across the monitor, and later on we end up perhaps with a shadow, which is far from ideal when we're working with a monitor. If we've got vertical blinds, very often by turning them one way or the other, this can eliminate that problem. And of course, as the light levels fall, we find ourselves turning our lights on anyway to supplement that loss of natural light. Now, you may have noticed that I'm sat at my dining table at the moment, and I did say earlier that there's no reason why you can't use a kitchen table or a dining table on which you can set up your workstation. Because what you would find is, if you were to take a tape measure and measure from floor to kitchen tabletop, dining tabletop, or the top of a desk, they're all around about the same height. Why is that? It's because they're made to a British standard. The same with chairs, except those that we tend to have with our workstation. Again, made to a British standard. So though they're not ideal for someone spending a large majority of their day sat at a workplace. The other thing is, with some of these worktop surfaces, they can give off a glare, and you might see a bit of a glare coming off my dining table at the moment, because there's a window to one side. Now, whilst you wouldn't normally do it in an office, there's no reason, because it won't impair you, that you can't cover that surface, perhaps, in my case, with a tablecloth. Problem solved. Now, also consider the heating levels in your room. Now, if it's too cold, too hot, it can be very uncomfortable. So make sure you turn your thermostat to a setting which gives you a pleasurable working temperature. Also, think about opening a window and let some fresh air blow in as well. Let's just take a look at the chair now, an all-important part of our workstation assessment. And you've probably got something very similar to mine back in your office, which offers you a range of adjustments, and we'll cover those in a moment. Now, if we look at the chair, we've got the centre post or column here, which is a piston. Below that, we've got what is considered to be the optimum number of legs, 5, together with casters. Now that allows us to move the chair in and out with ease when taking up our correct position. The legs, well, regardless of the rotation of the chair, it maintains the same stability. The seat wants to be firm, but not too firm, so not too hard, not too soft, given we're going to be sat in it perhaps for a long period of time. Now, in the case of my chair, the two features I have is I can lower and raise the chair accordingly, which is very common in these types of seats anyway. I've also got this handle, which when I rotate, it allows the seat to tilt forward. Now that takes a lot of pressure off the back of the thighs. Also, you'll note that the chair tends to roll over at the front into a bullnose type shape. Again, that takes pressure off the thigh. I've got a tall back to my chair, which is the better option. Unfortunately, mine's fixed, but generally they can be raised and lowered so that you can position the lumbar support in the correct position in the lower part of the spine. And in the case of mine, lumbar support here tends to suit my particular height and build. Now all we've got to do is sit up onto the chair and make the adjustments we need to suit our particular build. Now I've made all the adjustments necessary to my chair, which allows me to achieve the position I need to be in when I'm sat in front of my computer. I've raised the seat up so that I gain the height I need, but whilst at the same time achieving 90 degrees between the thigh and lower leg, keeping the feet flat on the ground. Now, when you adjust the height of your chair, you might find that you can't achieve this, in which case you need the aid of a footstool. Now, you may or may not have one available at home there. If not, then a little bit of improvisation. Maybe a plank of wood, maybe a ream of paper, or a good firm solid cardboard box that you can trim, perhaps secure together with some tape and put under your feet. Now remember, you're not standing on it, you're just supporting your feet on it, which takes the pressure off the underside of the thigh. As far as the back of the chair goes, if you can adjust it, then adjust the height so you gain maximum support from the lumbar support in the lower part of the spine. Mine just suits me with this chair. The rest of it is there to help support your back and keep you in an upright position. You don't want to be leaning backwards. Slightly forward is acceptable. Now, when you position yourself in and under the table, you're looking to position yourself in such a way that when you place your arms in the key-in position, once again, you're achieving 90 degree thereabouts with the fore and upper arm, and relaxing the shoulders. Now you'll know whether you've got the right height of the chair set because your hands should be hovering across the top of the table. A common mistake here is that the chair is too low and people end up resting their wrists or their forearms on the desk, which again is putting pressure on the underside. That's typically not what we want. Remember, 90 degrees, sat upright and in the chair, and the hands hovering across the top of the desk. Let's now concentrate on the computer hardware. Probably like me, you've been issued with a laptop, which is a very convenient piece of equipment. Very portable and can be used almost anywhere at any time. The problem is it's not very ergonomic and therefore should not be used for any long periods. Why? Because when we position the keyboard to where we like it, the monitor is far too close and far too low that we're having to bend our head forward to look at the screen. If we were to move the computer away to gain more distance between yourself and the monitor, then the keyboard is far too far away and we're not able to achieve the 90 degrees I mentioned earlier. So, as it stands, not what you want on its own for extended use. Let's continue now by adding a few additional computer hardware components to supplement the laptop. Now, if you were lucky enough, when you got issued your laptop, you may have also got a keyboard and a mouse. Now, these two additional items go a long way to us achieving a much better workstation setup. It allows us to push the monitor away, allows us to position the keyboard and the mouse alongside. The problem we still have is the monitor is too low. Now, you could improvise, as we said before, by using a few reams of paper to bring the height of the monitor up. You may have at your disposal, or you may purchase something like this, and there's a variety of designs out there, and this is a laptop support laptop riser. So, easily put together, as you saw, and that allows us to be able to put our laptop in a cradle and gain height. Now, it just so happens the height of my monitor now is exactly where it should be. That is to say, that when we're sat up correctly in the chair, we look straight out and our eyes should be level with the top of the monitor. The distance between the eyes and the monitor should be about arm's length, plus or minus a little. So arm's length, there we go, and directly in front of us. The keyboard, well, you may have to adjust that according to your seating position so that we once again have achieved the 90 degrees between the upper arm and the forearm. The height, remember, is such that we're floating over the top of the keyboard. Shoulders relaxed. The mouse alongside the keyboard, close to, doesn't matter if it's a little bit out there, because the majority of our time is spent on the keyboard. So now, this is the position we're trying to achieve. So that means that when we're keying, we're doing it by moving the arms as opposed to the wrists. So by floating over the top, and when we're keying, we're doing this action. It's probably fair to say that most people push the keyboard back and they rest their wrists or their forearms on the desk and they key in by rotating the hands left and right using the wrists. Now this is what can cause the problem in the wrists in later life because of that repeated, repetitive movement. So keyboard in the position where we can achieve the 90 degrees with the arms, we can relax the shoulders, and we key by moving the arms over the keys. The same principle applies with the mouse. A lot of people place the wrist or the forearm on the table and they move using the wrist. What we want to be achieving is that hover position and moving the mouse using the arm. Whilst we're doing that, what we're trying to achieve also is that the hand and the forearm are in a straight line. Not like that, and not like that, which is commonly what I see. So a recap, keyboard, 90 degrees, arms, shoulders relaxed, hand and forearm straight, and we key by moving the arms. Same principle with the mouse, hand and forearm straight, and move the mouse using the arm. Now if we can do all that, then we're going to go a long way towards preventing any ill health issues in the years to come. Now the screen is quite small at this distance. So maybe you can supplement that with a monitor. Now as if by magic, I now have my workstation all set up. I do have a monitor which I've positioned directly in front of me as I explained earlier. It's at arm's length and it's at the right height. Now, monitors tend to have some adjustment with them. Usually they tilt forward or back, which allows you to take any light or glare off the monitor. Some of them allow you to raise and lower the height of the monitor. Unfortunately, my monitor doesn't give me that facility. So what I have done, as you've probably already seen, I've sat it on top of 3 reams of paper. Now that gives me the height I need. Now you can get stacking trays, which are more likely what you've got in the office if you use them at all. So now I've achieved the monitor as and where I require it. Now the chances are we're going to power the monitor from the laptop. So I have positioned that to my left, still on the laptop riser, and as such both screens are around about the same height. because I know many people do use two screens, two monitors. They may be of the same size, or they use this one in front as a primary screen and occasionally looking across to the laptop screen. So it's only right that we get it at the same eye level if it's possible. Now, some of you may need to copy from documents. On this side, I've got a document holder. What I've done is I've improvised a little bit and used a quite sturdy, rigid box, albeit full of cans of Coke, where I can sit the document holder. And once again, if I'm referring to the document and back to the screen, I've got it at the same height. So it's just a case of glancing left or right without repeated large movements of the neck or up and down, where more often than not people put the document on the desk and they are looking from the screen down, so they're turning and twisting repetitively. Now we've eliminated that by achieving what you can see there. I've still got a notepad and a pen here if I need to write down some notes. My keypad is in front of me, my mouse is there, so I'm all ready to go. Now some people might use one of these, a palm rest. Now they come in, again, different sizes, different thicknesses. It generally means that you've got to push the keypad back in order to sit it in front. So now you might find that you can't achieve that 90 degrees with the arms. Now a common mistake with these is if people are using them, as before, they tend to be resting the wrists. Now not on the desk, but on the palm rest. And we have that action again where the hand and the forearm is twisted or bent, and they're using the wrist to key in. So we've got that repetitive, repeated movement again. The palm rest is used to rest the palms between keying. So we do our hovering, we do our keying, and then when we're not keying, we rest. We raise up, we carry on keying. Now, if you need or want to use one of those, that's not a problem. But just remember, you may have to push the keyboard away from you somewhat in order to sit it in front. Not having it does discourage you from putting your palms, be it on the desk or on the palm rest. Now, the last piece of hardware you may need to complete your workstation setup is a printer. Now, if you need the use of a printer, think about positioning it a few meters away from your desk. That then allows you to take a break from looking at the monitor, operating the keyboard, and of course it stretches your legs for a few moments when you go and collect, check your printing, or even do some scanning. Now let me just take a few moments to talk about your computer software. And because we're all different, we need to set up the font size, the contrast, the brightness to suit our particular needs. And of course, by getting that right, that will contribute to avoiding eye strain. Now, some of you may have been using computers for many years, and you're probably set in your ways. And how you operate is probably deeply embedded in your subconscious. But what I would ask you to do is to try what I've shown you during this presentation with regards to your setup, the position of your posture, your arms, your hands, and give it a good go. Now it will take some practice, and you'll need to be conscious and remind yourself of how you should be trying it. And if you do it enough times, that will become your new subconscious. And it's worthwhile doing this for your own health and well-being. Now, I hope you will give it a go, and I hope this presentation has been some value. And if it has, thank you for listening.